A long, long time ago, a woman arrived in a land that had no name yet. She wasn't alone. 3 warriors traveled with her. No one truly knows where she came from or why she came. Some believe it was a military expedition. Others think she was banished from her homeland or perhaps running away from something. But what we do know is that she chose to stay. She settled in the land and married the local chief, and soon after she gave birth to a child. That child would go on to become the very first emperor of what would be known as the country of Li. At that time, becoming emperor wasn't just about being born into the royal family. You had to prove you were chosen. The way they did this was through a special test at the Shrine of Choosing. This test wasn't about strength or wisdom. It was about a unique genetic trait, red-green color blindness. This condition ran through the bloodline of the Mother Royal, and it became the mark of true royalty. Over the years, the country of Li grew in strength, becoming one of the most powerful nations, if not the strongest among all others. Many believe this rise began with the 3 warriors who arrived alongside the Mother Royal. It's said they taught the people the art of war, strategy, discipline, and organization. They introduced systems of training, information control, and structures that shaped the future of Li's military and leadership. As time passed, the tradition of choosing the next emperor through the Shrine of Choosing remained unchanged, but with it came a growing fear that the imperial bloodline could one day vanish, wiped out by illness, war, or assassination. To prevent this, emperors began taking multiple consorts. It became a normalized practice within the inner court, ensuring that if one heir died, there would always be others ready to inherit the throne. And so, generation after generation, the tradition continued. The clan system in the country of Li wasn't created during this era. It existed long before, but during this period, a new imperial policy took shape, one that would reshape the balance of power. The emperor began bestowing special characters upon certain clans. Among these, the most prestigious honor a clan could receive was a Zodiac name. To be granted such a title was to be acknowledged as one of the emperor's most trusted and powerful allies. But favor is not guaranteed. The emperor held the absolute authority to revoke a clan's bestowed character at any time, and when that happened, the clan would immediately fall from grace, losing its prestige, its influence, and often its political power. In the current era, 3 clans stand above all others. The Ka clan, based at the central province, is the most powerful and politically influential. The emperor will always be a member of this clan until another clan manages to pull a revolution off. The Yu clan, which governs the western province, and the Shi clan, which oversees the northern province. Moving on, 2 generations ago, a new emperor was born. Like those before him, he too took on several consorts. Among them was a maid servant from within the inner court, a woman who would later rise to power and become known as the Empress Regnant. She gave birth to a son who would one day be called the former emperor. At the time, no one expected him to rule. He was the youngest of many half-brothers and held little political significance, but fate had other plans. One by one, all of his brothers died, some of disease, others perhaps not by natural causes. Some believe they were quietly eliminated by Empress Regnant herself, and so, with no other heirs remaining, the youngest, her son, was chosen to take the throne. For more on these events and the darker theories surrounding them, see the Apothecary Diaries theories video. During her reign, it was she, not her son, who held the true authority. The former emperor, her only son, lived a secluded life, spending most of his time in a room designed by his mother for him, where he focused on painting and art. However, over the years, dark rumors began to surface. For reasons still unclear, the former emperor developed deeply disturbing and predatory behavior. Allegations of repeated assaults effects on young girls during his lifetime have been recorded. Again, refer to the theories video for a more detailed discussion. But let's take a step back and take a look at the Western Province, where the Shi clan rules. Among the founding clans of Li, the Shi clan is one of the original three. Over time, they came to dominate the Northern Province, where they engage in the slave trade, an act strictly forbidden under the rule of Empress Regnant. Though not a member of the Shi clan's main branch, Shishu had been adopted into the family's extended line. He proposed to relocate the slaves into the inner court, where they could serve as palace workers rather than be traded. This move effectively neutralized the trade without direct conflict, and elevated Shishu's status in the eyes of Empress Regnant. It's also quietly hinted in the story that Shishu may possess red-green colorblindness, a rare genetic trait linked to the Mother Royal, which may suggest he carries some form of royal lineage himself. Once the Shi clan's schemes were subdued, Empress Regnant demanded that the clan's head offers their eldest daughter, Shenmei, to the inner court. Shenmei, a proud woman from a noble bloodline, was deeply insulted, but this political sacrifice was made to ensure the Shi clan remained in favor and was not seen as a threat to the crown. Empress Regnant then named Shenmei a consort for Shishu, a reward for his service perhaps, but more likely a way to keep her restrained, knowing her ambition would be too dangerous to leave unchecked. From their union, a child was born, Loumen, also known by another name, Shisui. Tragically, the emperor's abusive behavior continued. He assaulted one of Shenmei's ladies in waiting, and from that act, a child was born, a girl who would become known as the Banished Princess. Official records claimed her mother had an affair with a palace physician. As a result, both mother and daughter were exiled. Eventually, the former emperor asked his prime minister to marry the woman, and they had a daughter. Later, he had a son with the lady-in-waiting of a middle-ranking consort. He acknowledged this son, and as a result, the consort rose in rank and was eventually declared Empress. She now holds the most power within the inner court. However, she has no authority over warfare or external political affairs. The only reason the Empress Regnant was able to exercise such powers was because she turned the emperor into a puppet, using him to carry out her ambitions. Eventually, the former emperor's son was named Crown Prince. He took as his consort the daughter of the lady-in-waiting who had once served his mother, Ado. Their union produced his first son, who would later become known as Jinshi. In the present events of the story, Jinshi is officially portrayed as the son of Anshi, making him the brother of the current emperor. However, this is a cover-up orchestrated by Ado and Anshi. In truth, Anshi gave her own son to Ado to raise, while Ado gave her newborn Jinshi to Anshi. This switch occurred because Ado's childbirth was complicated, and she entrusted Jinshi to Anshi, then the empress, so that he could receive proper medical care. This is how the child, known publicly as the imperial brother, came under Ado's care. Tragically, he later met his end at the hands of Fengxian, Ado's lady-in-waiting. Officially and according to palace records, the firstborn child of the current emperor died after being fed honey. Another important clan in the story is the La clan, renowned for producing many highly intelligent individuals over the years. One notable member, Loumen, pursued the study of medicine and became one of the most gifted physicians of his time. Upon his return, he was appointed as a doctor in the rear palace. Loumen eventually becomes one of the most significant characters in the story, as he is the person who teaches Mao Mao both medicine and poison. Loumen had a brother, who in turn had a son named Lakan. Lakan is also among the most important characters in the story, arguably within the top 5 in in terms of narrative significance. As Lakan matured, it was discovered that he suffered from prosopagnosia, the inability to recognize faces. His father later had a child with another woman, resulting in the birth of Lakan's half-brother Lako. During this time, one of the most important events in the story occurred. Lakan began visiting Verdigris house, the most prestigious brothel in the red light district. He visited a young courtesan named Fengxian, but unlike most who came to the pleasure district, Lakan wasn't interested in physical favors. Instead, he returned time and time again to play shogi and go, as Fengxian was the only one who could match his intellect. In fact, she was the first person to ever defeat him in a match. Fengxian had a servant named Mei, and Lakan taught her how to play the games that Fengxian and Lakan used to play. As Lakan and Fengxian's time together grew, so did Fengxian's value. Her reputation soared, and Lakan was eventually restricted to visiting her only once or twice a month. But just as their bond deepened, Lakan's world shifted. He was dethroned as heir, and his half-brother was chosen. The very next day, he slept with Fengxian for the first time. But this wasn't a coincidence. On Fengxian's part, this was a deliberate sacrifice, an act meant to lower her value, to make her affordable for Lakan, who was no longer in a position of wealth or power. From that night, Mao Mao was conceived. Shortly afterward, Fengxian's price dropped, and Lakan was sent away on a military expedition to the northern province, unaware that he had left Fengxian behind, pregnant. All of Fengxian's letters to Lakan went unanswered, not out of cruelty, but because Lakan was no longer there. He had been relocated to the northern province, never receiving a single word she wrote. In that world, the courtesan who bears a child is considered tainted, worthless, and so she was forced to take the lowest and most dangerous clientele. In time, she contracted syphilis, a sexually transmitted disease that was as much a social death sentence as a physical one. Consumed by anger, illness, and abandonment, Fengxian began to descend into madness, her mind deteriorating alongside her body, turned against the one innocent person by her side, her daughter. Mao Mao, from her earliest days, was unloved and unwanted. Her mother became abusive, both emotionally and physically. At her worst, Fengxian cut off Mao Mao's finger. On the other side, Loumen found Fengxian's letters. Realizing the truth, he moved to the red light district and took Mao Mao under his care. He began teaching her everything he knew: medicine, herbs, and poisons. Back in the inner court, Li Shu's family, fully aware of the former emperor's predatory behavior, still chose to send her into the palace as nothing more than a tool to gain significance. It was Emperor Yang, along with Ado, who rescued Li Shu from becoming another victim. 5 years before the events of the Apothecary Diaries, Yang ascended the throne, becoming the new emperor of the nation. During this time, new consorts entered the inner court: Gyokuyu, Li Hua, Fuyu, each carefully chosen to support the young emperor's role. And with them came Li Shu, to protect her from being sent back to the very family that once tried to exploit her. Emperor Yang himself elevated her status, naming her a high consort. When the former emperor died, the so-called imperial brother became the new crown prince, but also became Jinshi, the eunuch administrator of the inner palace. After winning a game of Go, and around this time both Gyokuyu and Li Hua became pregnant with a son and a daughter respectively. But both of these children, together with their mothers, became poisoned by the face powder used for makeup. And around this time, Mao Mao was kidnapped from the red light district and forced to work in the inner court.